Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more details videos. Why Coco Gauff now needs to take inspiration from Aryna Sabalenka after her latest win over Danielle Collins. The Montreal Open is in full swing, and Coco Gauff has edged into round 2 of the competition after beating Danielle Collins. Coco Gauff stunned Nick Kyrgios and other pundits when she lost in the first round of Wimbledon to Diana Yastremska. That defeat came just weeks after Gauff won a second Grand Slam title by beating Aryna Sabalenka in the French Open final. Kim Clijsters thinks Gauff made a big mistake ahead of Wimbledon, and now she will be fully focused on having a sound second half of the year. Gauff didn't play in Washington last week, and although she beat Collins in her maiden Montreal Open match, a bad habit once again crept into her game. Coco Gauff has serious double fault problem to solve. Gauff was on the court for almost 3 hours against Collins, and once again, the double fault situation has reared its ugly head. It's no secret that Gauff simply throws too many double faults into her game, and the lack of concentration is absolutely crippling her at times. Nobody on the WTA Tour has more double faults than Gauff this year, and she recorded another 23 against Collins in Montreal. Given that Gauff is the second best player in world tennis, as per the rankings, it simply isn't good enough, and now something has to give. Gauff has to draw inspiration from Sabalenka. It's only natural for a professional athlete to have a flaw, and the best players are capable of ironing these things out and growing as a player. In October of last year, Sabalenka confessed to The Telegraph that she'd been leaving no stone unturned to transform her serve after a high percentage of double faults. The world number 1 isn't even in the top 5 on the list for double faults this year. And quite clearly, whatever she's been doing behind the scenes has paid dividends. It's hard to argue too much with Gauff's form this year, given that she would have taken winning another Grand Slam as a successful year before a ball was served. However, the situation regarding her double fault habit is becoming perilous, and the longer it goes on, the more of a problem it will become. The scoreboard may have shown a win, but Coco Gauff's recent escape against Danielle Collins at the Canadian Open told a much deeper story than just a straight-set victory. Yes, the defending champion is through to the next round. Yes, she found a way. But if tennis is as much about the manner of victory as the result itself, then Coco Gauff might want to glance across the net, not at her opponents, but at a player who's turned adversity into a signature strength, Aryna Sabalenka. Because if Gauff wants to evolve from a prodigy with heart-stopping rallies and social media magnetism into a dominant, commanding champion, if she wants to be feared, not just admired, then the Sabalenka blueprint is worth studying. Desperately so. Gauff's grit isn't enough anymore. Let's get one thing straight. Coco Gauff is a fighter. Her refusal to quit, her emotional honesty on court, her electric footwork, and her maturity at just 20 have made her a superstar beyond the realm of tennis. Her win over Danielle Collins at the 2025 Canadian Open, a 6-4, 7-5 tug-of-war full of double faults, missed first serves, and raw nerves, was the latest proof of her grit. But therein lies the issue. Gauff has been surviving matches she should be winning comfortably. Against Collins, she threw in 13 double faults and barely cracked 50% on her first serve. Her forehand, long debated as her Achilles heel, broke down again under pressure. She looked to the sky, her box, and perhaps within, but not enough to her serve toss, her footwork, or her composure. These are not the symptoms of a champion in cruise control. These are the warning signs of burnout, of tension, of pressure unmet with solutions. And it's here, in the raw vulnerability of Gauff's game, that Aryna Sabalenka's story becomes a roadmap. Sabalenka's journey, from implosion to dominance. Just 2 years ago, Aryna Sabalenka was where Coco is now, tangled in her own strings. Her serve was a circus act of double faults. Matches were lost before they began. Confidence became her biggest opponent. Headlines didn't praise her power, they pitted her collapse. And yet today, Sabalenka is a 2-time Grand Slam champion, former world number 1, and perhaps the most feared power hitter in women's tennis. How? Because she didn't just tough it out. She transformed. Sabalenka sought out sports psychologists. She overhauled her serve. She stared into the chaos and rebuilt her game with intention. Her problems weren't just mental or technical, they were both. And she didn't treat one while ignoring the other. She leaned into the process, not just the outcome. And that is what Gauff now must do. Technical courage versus emotional resilience. It's not that Coco Gauff lacks fight. Far from it. It's that she hasn't yet developed the technical courage to match her emotional resilience. She talks about her serve. She jokes about the double faults. She owns her struggles, and that's admirable. But owning isn't fixing. Where Sabalenka would re-engineer her mechanics, Gauff still seems trapped in tweaks. Her toss remains inconsistent. Her grip doesn't generate enough natural pace. And under pressure, the whole thing unravels. That's not nerves. That's a technical flaw waiting to be exposed. Her forehand, though improved since working with Brad Gilbert, still gets rushed. She runs around it when she should step in. She reacts when she needs to dictate. Sabalenka, too, had a wild forehand once. Now it's a weapon she unloads with ruthless timing and calculated risk. Gauff's backhand is world-class, her movement elite, but her game can no longer afford to be two-thirds finished. Mental mastery in the big moments. Watch any Sabalenka match now, and you'll see the swagger of someone who believes she belongs at the top. She doesn't just win, she overwhelms. Even in defeat, she swings for the lines with conviction. The nerves remain, but they no longer control her. She has mental routines, triggers, deep breathing, visual cues. Gauff, by contrast, can be seen unraveling between points. The racket twirls nervously. The muttering starts. The glances at her box become longer. Sometimes she smiles to mask the frustration. Sometimes she just shakes her head. Sabalenka used to do all of this. And then she stopped. Because when she accepted that control doesn't come from emotion but from structure, her game soared. Coco Gauff doesn't need less emotion. She needs more emotional direction. And she needs it embedded into her routines the way Sabalenka now has. Between point resets, a clearer tactical plan, less energy wasted on reaction, more invested in response. Learning from the lioness. Aryna Sabalenka's story isn't just one of redemption, it's a masterclass in self-accountability. She didn't blame the media. She didn't call it a slump. She took control of her evolution. Coco Gauff now finds herself at a similar crossroads. Her ranking is high. Her fame is higher. The expectations? Sky high. But beneath all that shine is a young woman at risk of playing reactive tennis in matches she should dominate. She doesn't need to mimic Sabalenka's power, but she must emulate her evolution. Hire the right people. Commit to technical overhauls. Accept that vulnerability is part of growth, and that fixing the serve isn't a side quest, but the main storyline. The serve isn't just a weapon, it's a signal. If Gauff gets that right, the rest of her game will rise to meet it. The Collins warning. Danielle Collins, gritty and fierce, should not have been anywhere near a win in that match. But she very nearly was, because Gauff allowed the chaos in. Against better opponents later in this draw, that will mean the end of her title defense. Sabalenka learned this lesson the hard way, losing countless matches to lesser-ranked players because her own mind and mechanics betrayed her. But once she fixed them, the floodgates opened. That's what's now at stake for Gauff. Will she keep surviving, or will she start dominating? Final rally, the Gauff of tomorrow. Coco Gauff doesn't need to become Aryna Sabalenka. She needs to learn from her. She needs to rebuild her serve like it's a house, not a tent. She needs to design her forehand to hold up in hurricane conditions. And most of all, she needs to trust that doing the hard, unglamorous work behind the scenes, changing grips, resetting patterns, admitting weaknesses, is what creates the glamour of Grand Slam success. Because Coco Gauff has everything it takes to be #1 in the world. But raw potential is only step one. Sabalenka showed us that transformation comes when you stop wishing it were easier and start doing the work that's harder. And now, Gauff must choose. Stay the crowd favorite who fights through, or become the champion who leaves no doubt. The answer lies not in her next win, but in her next evolution. And if she listens, Aryna Sabalenka has already shown her the way.